Hello again, everyone. Michael Zupan with Byte-Size Impressions, and I'm here with a new Opinion Bytes video to discuss the Order 1886. Now, obviously, this game, prior to its release, was met with a hell of a lot of controversy. Mainly, this centered around the idea that the game was only about 5 hours long, and I think it was about a week or two before the game actually launched. Somebody managed to get their hands on it a little early, and they recorded themselves playing it from beginning to end and posted that video on YouTube, and that's where that 5-hour number came from. So, obviously, at that point, everybody lost their collective minds. 5 hours for a game, why am I going to do that? Why am I going to take $60 of my hard-earned cash, drop it down for a 5-hour experience when I can take that same $60 and get a game that's 15, 30, 75, or maybe even 100 hours or more, get way more bang for my buck? And everybody was, not everybody, of course, that's a bit hyperbolic, but it seemed like a lot of people were trashing this game up and down. They didn't even have the opportunity to sit down and play it for themselves. Why? It goes back to this conversation I was just having on BytesizeImpressions.com not that long ago, when I had posted a rebuttal to the PBS game show host, John Warren, where his argument was that video games are too damn long. He was saying that we should have shorter games that are maybe only 5 or 6 hours long so that it could sort of accommodate the lifestyle of people like him. So there's his point over here, but because the release of this game, the Order 1886, came about, and the game is allegedly only 5 hours long, people are complaining about that too. It just goes to show you that not all gamers are created equal. Everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has their own tastes. Everybody has their own style that they prefer. You're not going to please everyone with a game. So before I even get into how I feel about the Order 1886 overall, I think it's worth noting that I'm really, really glad and golf clap Ready at Dawn for sticking to their guns and producing a game that they wanted to make. Now, I'm not sure what the reasoning behind going for such a cinematic experience was, which was another complaint on day one once people actually got their hands on the game and could accurately criticize the Order 1886. But I'm not sure what their reasoning behind it was. I know that there's been a lot of conversation last generation, and people would get excited when they say, oh man, this game is so crazy. I've never played anything like it. Like Uncharted 2. You've got all these major, huge action set pieces that seem like they could have been pulled right out of a Hollywood motion picture. So people would say, it's so cinematic, it's crazy, you've got to try it. And now, a cinematic experience is something that really seems to be something worth condemning a game for nowadays, and it sort of blows my mind. I don't think that quality should somehow equate to quantity. There's no connection there. I think there's really short games that are awesome and really short games that are bad. Same thing with very long games. But cinematic experiences, I think we've had cinematic moments in games thus far, and they've done certain things in games to make them feel cinematic, but they weren't really cinematic. So I think maybe Ready at Dawn were trying to release a game that actually blurred the line between motion picture and video game. The question is, were they able to do that competently or not? Well, for my opinion, for what it's worth, I think the Order 1886, I think they were not only competent in what they've provided, but I think they've actually gone beyond that whole cinematic experience and blurring those lines. I think they did a fantastic job. That's not to say that the Order 1886 is a flawless game, because it really, really, really is not. Again, one of the major complaints from most people in regards to this game was the cinematic aspect. At least 50% of the time playing this game, and that's just an estimation off the top of my head, you're sitting there and watching the story unfold like a film. You do get QuickTime events to sort of break that up a little bit, so you always have to kind of be on your toes, and not all QuickTime events are created equal, meaning sometimes you just have to push a button, sometimes you might have to move around with the joystick a little bit and then trigger something with a button specifically, so you always kind of have to be aware as to what's going on and not let your guard down. But every once in a while, once you escape cinematic mode, you do get some actual genuine bits of gameplay in there where it's very shooting gallery-like is what I've heard people refer to it as, and it's a very accurate description. It's very Gears of War-esque, in which you kind of have a cover system where you have to kind of crouch behind something or kind of lean your back against the wall and pop out every once in a while to fire off some rounds at your enemies. And these moments of the game feel really, really solid. The gameplay mechanics themselves are great, and the weapons they're phenomenal. You've got something like a triple barrel shotgun, which really packs a punch. You have another weapon where you're like shooting thermite at people and then setting it on fire. I mean, it's pretty amazing. There's also like a lightning gun too. I'm not using the actual names of these weapons. I know I'm terrible with names, but you have to play it. It feels really, really good. But of course, one of the complaints about these sections of the games from people on the internet had been, once you're actually in gameplay mode and you're in control 100%, it's very, very linear, which is true, which doesn't bother me because, again, that's what Ready at Dawn we're going for. But just as you're starting to have a ton of fun and having a great time with that, boom, the game pulls the controls away from you and you're back in cinema land once again. And again, I understand why people are making these complaints. These complaints are not unfounded. These things are accurate, and this is partially why I have to say it's not a perfect game. I think if they were to have made the gameplay bits a bit longer so that they felt a bit more satisfying when the game actually pulled the controls away from you, it would have been received much better, and I think I would have been able to give a more confident rating for this game. But honestly, as far as ratings go, I'm just going to get to it right now. I do not recommend this game for anyone. I can't. In good conscience, I cannot recommend the Order 1886 to anybody. I loved it. I had a great time with it. I really respected what they were trying to do. Because, I mean, I think the story, which is you have the Knights of the Round, and the idea in this storyline is that they can carry on for generations. And what they do is they protect people from the things that they aren't really aware exists. Or if they've heard of these things before, they don't believe they're real because the Knights of the Round are doing such a good job protecting people from these things. For example, we're in, the London here, 1886, and you have the Jack the Ripper slayings that are happening, and those are making the headlines, and that's what everybody in town is sort of afraid of. But the reality of the situation, and this is not a spoiler because this is all at the very beginning of the game, it's werewolves. You're protecting people against this threat of werewolves. But they're kind of around here and there, but lately they seem to be really popping out of the woodwork. So you're trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes, what kind of threat is cooking up. And there's a lot of twists and turns along the way, and there's a little bit of emotion here and there. But anyway, I think the story as it's laid out is really, really good. Some bits are pretty predictable, yes. That's sort of to be expected for any sort of Hollywood-esque story, I suppose. But they've really nailed everything about creating a cinematic experience with CGI. The attention to detail in this game is absolutely mind-blowing. everything from the way the story rolls out to the way that the voice actors bring their characters to life, because I think the voice acting in this game, especially for the primary characters, is fantastic. I think the mood and the atmosphere created by the visuals is just dripping with dread and tension at times. And even the score really helps to add that sense of mounting tension and dread and that sort of thing. Everything about this screams this could have been a movie. They've done a fantastic job in this, but again, it all comes down to people having different tastes. The same could be true about playing a game like Grand Theft Auto. Some people aren't really all about the, roaming around a sandbox for 30 hours and just shooting at things. But this even more so. And that's why I can't really recommend the Order 1886 to everybody, because I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But I think everybody should at least try and experience this game. If you know somebody who has purchased the Order 1886, give it a whirl. If you can rent it, definitely do that. If you want to wait until it goes on sale someday and you feel more comfortable spending 40 or even 30 or 20 on the game at that point, then fine. But don't judge a game just because of what you think it is. Personally, I did not go into the Order 1886 expecting all that much from it. I was expecting a really drab ho-hum experience. I mean, I know back when the PlayStation Experience was happening, they showed that gameplay of you doing the whole shooting gallery thing in a kitchen inside of a blimp. And it just seemed so bland and uninspired to me at the time. I was like, this doesn't really strike a chord in me and make me really all that excited to play the game. But actually sitting down and playing through this game, and again, I have to thank my wife for picking this up for me so that I gave it a shot earlier on, I was really happy I got to play through the game. I was pleasantly surprised by just how well it was done. And I'm rooting for a sequel. I'm hoping sales have been good enough in order to allow that to happen with Ready at Dawn. But who knows? The future remains to be seen. That's all I really want to say about the game. I don't want to get too much into character development. I don't want to get too much more into the plot than I've already told you guys, because I don't want to spoil anything about the game, because it is very heavily story, cinematic based. I don't want to spoil any of the surprises, because they're always awaiting around every turn. So thank you very much for watching the Order 1886. The bottom line, I really enjoyed it. I can't recommend it to you guys, but try it if you get the chance at your leisure. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.